Hello, hello. Welcome back to Sessions with System and Soul. I'm McKenzie. I'm here with Benj, and we've got a reflection session for you today. So, what this is this type of session. Benj is a business coach, and he's with clients throughout the week. And there's a lot of really good conversations and experiences going on inside the session room, inside the room with those leadership teams that we're like, we want to make sure you get that knowledge too and kind of see what that looks like, because we know that you're in your own boardroom, your own conference room, trying to figure some of this stuff out. So today's session is going to be leaning into what's going on behind closed doors and get some live coaching from Benj. So we're going to jump into that. Before we do, I want to thank our content creator. It's Fist Bump. Fist Bump is such an insane partner for us. They have helped us really make such an authentic representation of what we care about, what matters to us, and share it with you. So they help us create this show, and highly recommend getting in touch with Fist Bumps if you need someone to help you create genuine, authentic content. Let's dig in, Benj. So you've been in session a lot this week. You've been like all over the place. So I want to hear like what's been the theme, what's been going on as you've been in sessions this week.
There was definitely a theme last week and this week, and it's this idea of being a people first company. And so one of the clients that I was with literally uses that word. They claim that boldly. We are a people first company. The company I was just with yesterday, they don't use those words, but they deeply care about their people. They're highly relational. And in both cases, they had to make some very hard people decisions. And so it's like, as a business, what does it mean to be to be people first when you have to make a budget decision or a people performance culture fit decision? And I was kind of struck by just sitting back and watching how people deal with this tension, right? We have this problem, whatever it is. I'll go into some of the specifics, but if we are a people first company, how does that mean that we respond? What does it actually mean? Because I've seen plenty of companies that would claim they're people first, and then they operate without thinking about, well, what does that mean? I've also seen people that don't necessarily claim to be people first, but they are to a fault where they don't ever take the time to weigh in what the business needs. I've seen people be people first where they think that they're valuing keeping a person around in a position they shouldn't be in, where it's actually creating a problem for a lot of people around them, right? So they're people first so that they don't have to deal with this hard thing right here, but it's actually degrading the people all around them, right? So I just keep seeing either, people that are people first, people claim to be people first. One had, yes, they're people first, and they had budget that they were committed to. And because of a long sales cycle, they're behind budget, which meant that they had to cut out some big numbers. And so I got to watch them wrestle with how are they going to do that in their business. Yeah. Then the next day, it's kind of a opposite side where the business is fine. Well, the numbers are fine, but there's definitely underperformance happening. And so what's the root of that? And it comes down to some people. And when you have people that have the company's kind of outgrown, they've been there for a long time. They're, you think of them as core, but then you start talking about, what all's happening that's causing the underperformance, and it's not business related. It's tied back to them. It's like, what do you do? Right? They've been here forever. They've been loyal. How can they be loyal to us? And then we go to them and say, man, there's not a role for you here anymore. That's super hard.
Yeah, man. And I would bet you ask any person and they've gone through this in a business. They've either worked with someone who was that underperformer, or they've had to let that person go, or they've had to navigate what you're talking about. Tell me, okay, so I think what you've described is this, like, maybe it's a little bit of an overused term if we say people first, because it sounds like, I mean, you described 3 or 4 different scenarios where that can
Yeah.
kind of go sideways. Like, it creates this over tolerance, like we tolerate things that we shouldn't. You mentioned relational as almost like a synonym. Like, we look at it like people first means relational, but that's not really the same thing, you know? And
Well,
um
I think that's the thing. Like people first doesn't really have a definition,
well,
right?
I want to ask you, based on all the ways you've seen this kind of go sideways and create challenges for teams, what do you think? Do you think there is a healthy definition of people first?
Man, that's a great question. I ugh. I'll tell you what. This is a personal answer, not a Harvard Business Review answer. But I think the healthy version of people first is what the language that we use all the time internally is. We're about human dignity, right? So how can we make sure that whatever we're doing, we're putting individual people's dignity first and foremost, which doesn't necessarily dictate what you do. It dictates how you do it. And so
Mm.
how you go about it. And luckily in both the cases I saw this week, it did not go wrong. It went beautifully in two different ways. Like in the first conversation, it was we cut a lot of dollars out of budget and they didn't cut a single person. They went looking for ways they could cut budget without people. And they were all in the room, all the different leaders sacrificing things in their own departmental budgets, things that they, are accustomed to or really look forward to or whatever it is. And they found the money and just said either we can not do that or we can wait on that till next year or whatever it was. So it was this really cool sacrificial thing, even to the point where we went through some people who were up for promotions at mid-year, and there was a list. And there were a couple people that people said, yeah, they're not quite actually ready for the promotion, so we don't have to deal with that yet. But there was a big list of people that said, hey, we've been coaching people to this and not promising, but saying it's coming. And it would be really bad for culture and for trust with them if we didn't follow through on that commitment. And so, not only not cutting people, but they did decide to go ahead and give a list of people promotions and raises at mid-year because that was their commitment to them. So that went beautifully. In the second conversation, people have to go. Like people
Mhm.
have to go. And everybody's like, I'm willing to have the hard conversations. I'm not looking forward to those hard conversations. Like they're
Right.
painful, they're people, their relationships, their et cetera. And then what happened is we took a break. And during that break, everybody kind of started going around the table saying, you know, me getting fired from that one job or me getting let go from that one job was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wouldn't be here if that hadn't happened. I wouldn't have done this if that didn't happen. And so realizing that this isn't like fatalistic and you don't, uh, you know, not firing somebody because they don't perform is almost a control. Like you control that person, you're responsible for them, you're not giving them personal agency. So it's not fun, but I think if you're truly people first, you've got to protect the people that are your people. And those are people who are performing for the business, bought into the mission, the vision, the values, all of that. And yeah, there's hard conversations that have to happen. That's why leaders are leaders, is because they have to do the hard stuff.
Yeah. I really love that you said it's not people first. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And you use the word dignity there. And I think, like you said, like having the hard conversation is dignifying to someone. Um, but in a respectful way, in a compassionate way, understanding that this is going to be hard for them, that they're going to have to go find a new role, or that giving them hard feedback is going to hurt because they didn't realize, like they didn't realize they were doing something wrong, or to let them know that they're not performing at the right level. That's hard to do, but it's, again, like you said, like if we do it with compassion, if we do it with respect and dignity, then we become an asset. And I think that's the mindset that we have to have with a lot of this. But I really love that you said it's how you do it.
I think that's right. I was kind of extroverting that out, but I think that that's right.
It made me think of, I don't even know. It seemed like there was like a string of really large companies. Oh, it was like tech companies. Maybe it was last year, where they would get like 4,000 people on a Zoom call and then they would just fire everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, who thought that was a good idea? like that's one, it's a very extreme example, but it's like, you could take that approach. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking sitting face to face with someone and being honest about what's going on. The other thing you made me think of is, I know that we've had seasons of struggle in our business where we've had to look at the numbers, and we've had to look at everybody in our team, and we're like, okay, what do we do? And for the longest time, I felt like there's so much of that has to be done at the leadership team level, like what you experienced this past week, and those conversations are closed door. But there's also a part of it that, like, when we told our team, this is where we're at right now, these are the decisions we have to make, these are the cuts we have to make, and explaining to the team why we had to let this role go for now, why we can't do this event or this initiative. There's so much shame for me in that, at the time. And then I just watched them, like, in sharing the hard stuff. I watched them step in and say, that is hard. What can we do? How can we help with that? So I think it can be a very, it can be a good thing, ultimately, is what we're trying to say, I think.
I do think there's great opportunity. It depends on the situation, but anytime you can involve the greater team in one of those kind of budget constraint conversations, to say, hey, where can you find money right now for this season? And I think that that's always a good, this is a season. So for this season, where can we find money? And it's just, people are like, well, we can travel, we can cut down on travel, people are willing to find things if they know what the business needs and what the people needs. But when you try and control that from an ivory tower and manipulate it and not come out with the why and just say, hey, we're cutting travel, people are like, okay, jerks. Like, how am I supposed to do my job? There's no explanation behind it. There's no heart behind it, because you're just like, you're hiding your heart. The heart's in a hard situation, right? The mind's in a hard situation. If we're not sharing a hard situation and just sharing the consequences, then we lose a little trust from our organization. And again, I think that's probably, talking about how we go about it, not what we do. I think over communicating, being transparent with the reality of the situation, not sugarcoating. I've seen situation where it's like, let's get really clear and let's be really honest. Are we eliminating a position? Or are we eliminating them from the position? Like, because we've talked about both, but what is this? Because we need to be clear with them and the organization, which it is. Because if not, if we say we're eliminating position and then go hire a replacement, like, we just destroyed organizational trust, because everybody's going to read into that. And whatever, goodwill you built with the relationship of the person you let go, they're going to see that too. And it's going to ruin all the good that was in the relationship by the way that it went bad at the end. So nobody wants that. So it just takes some intentionality to slow down a second and have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking a lot about people first in terms of, hiring, firing, promoting, kind of around like in like roles or individual people. Are there other ways that you see teams live out a kind of a people first culture in other parts of the business really well, or like, and I think I want to ask that because I think there are other expressions of this people first mentality that can either go really well in other parts of the business or poorly. And so can you describe that for us?
Yeah, there's so many examples. I'm not even sure where to start, but the answer is absolutely. I think I'm just, reflecting on the last week. I saw two very specific things happening in those conversations, but there's definitely it's everywhere. For us, I think it shows up a lot when we do kind of our culture equation and values and org habits and what do we want the culture to be like, feel like, be expressed as, and how intentionally are we about putting effort and resources toward making that true? Like, is it words and now we're going to go back to business, or are we going to actually do what we believe and take the time to do this and this and this and this with our team, with our people? Are we investing in people development? Are we investing in leadership development? I have a client that's in a very, very blue collar industry, and their onlyness statement starts with, "We're the only people development company that does blah blah blah, this blue collar thing." And that was a little bit optimistic when they said it. Like, there wasn't necessarily the organizational structure below it to make that true, but it was aspirational to the point that that's what they wanted to be and what they knew they had to be to keep growing at the clip they had to grow at. Like, you've got to grow people, you've got to grow leaders for this organization to grow the way we want it to. And so they're going to take that seriously. And so now they've been on a journey to be like, what does that actually look like? How do we do that? They kind of set this vision, and then they had to go figure it all out, right? But that was very, like, that's turning them into a people first organization because they actually see themselves as a people development company. We just happen to do this thing over there, but we're now first and foremost a people development company. I think that's a really cool example, where they made it the main thing, and the business that they're in is almost secondary to that. But investing in that is the thing that's accelerating and growing the people in the company. You can't grow a business without growing people. And to do that, you have to grow the people you have or add more people, right? And there's pros and cons to both of those. But if you're not growing the people you have, they're going to leave, and you're going to have to constantly be adding new people, which just slows the business down if you don't have that core that knows the business, knows the ethos, knows how we do things. They're bought in, they're growth-minded people that are always now they're growing themselves, growing their people, and there's just such a cascading effect to that. But it really shows up in the way that people make decisions about everything. How are we going to budget, prioritize, focus the efforts? You see it a lot in just the demeanor of a leadership team and what they spend their time doing. Is it tasks or is it people? And we know from examples, from data, from science, from research, from case studies, we know that the people who invest in the people get the highest returns. But yeah, there's such a gravity back to doing the business and the tasks and the projects. If we have a mindset that the people stuff is a distraction to that, if we have a mindset that we're taking time away from the business to work on the people, that's going to be a hindrance for a long time. And that's definitely like the opposite of what happens in a people first organization.
Well, wow. I think I'm over here taking notes, by the way. I'm not working on something else.
You got a good Sudoku game going on?
Yeah, I'm like solving this puzzle. No. I think you named so many things that have formed a definition of what people first really is, and named at least 3 companies that are working through this. And it sounds like it's not a it's a mistake if it's extracted from how business is done. And you said that at the beginning, like people first is it's maybe it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I heard a few keywords that I want to go back and just repeat. Um, a people first culture is transparent and honest. It doesn't sit in the ivory tower. It's intentional. It's invested in, meaning we invest our time, we invest our resources, we invest in making sure it's actually being lived out. And then the last thing you said is it's integrated into how we make decisions and what we do as a business. So it's not this separate thing over here that we do at the company picnic once a year. It's like how we make decisions inside the room. Before we end our conversation today, I want to ask you to get in coach mode for me a little bit and give what if a leader is working through this themselves, if they're trying to figure out how they ensure that if they believe they're people first, that they're actually living it out. What do they need to be thinking about? How do they need to be approaching these decisions? What would you challenge them to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for recapping because as this episode's called a reflection, I literally just extroverted all that and hadn't really thought about it yet. So it was a good reflection. So great recap. Here's what comes to mind. And I'm actually gonna preach from what I practiced on this one. So a week ago, I'm wondering, like, hey, one of the things that's most important to me is being a good father. How am I doing?
Mm.
There's the long arc, which I'll never know till they're 35, right? But it would be a shame if I didn't get some feedback on that right now. So I just shot each one of them a text. I said, hey, I kept it super simple. Hey, what are two things that I'm doing well for you right now? And what are two things that I could do better for you, to each one of my kids? So that's what came to mind when you asked that. And the answer in the business context is go ask your people. Hey, if I said I wanted to be a people first leader, what are the three things that I would need to do that would really help move us in that direction? Hey, if we were going to be a people first company, what would we have to change around here? What doesn't feel like we're people first? Like, go ask the question to the people that you want to feel people first to. That's how you figure that out. Again, get out of the ivory tower and go find the answer.
Yeah. Go explore the shorter arc.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you don't have to listen because sometimes we see the future, especially in the parenting context. Like, well, I know you want to do these things that you feel like are a lot of freedom right now, but that's actually bad. I'm protecting you for this time for the long arc. So we don't have to listen. We don't have to act on everything, but it's very important that we listen and understand and maybe go back and explain like, hey, I know you desire this, but the reason that I'm doing it is actually in your best interest. And I could be wrong, but this is how I'm choosing to parent because I love you. So I think that has application in the business world.
For sure. Wow. Who knew we were parenting advice today on Sessions of System and Soul? Thank you, Ben. This is really powerful. Really powerful. Thank you guys for tuning in. One more shout out to Fist Bump. Thank you for everything you guys have done to help us share everything from business advice to parenting advice on our episode. So you guys have a great week. We'll see you